Hello. As we progress in this Navaratri and we look at various aspects and various forms of the Mata, the leadership, the various evolutions and the various paths that have been shown across the industry, across the our phases of life. There's also one very important aspect which is very close to me because I come from that same particular background. But I have seen a lot of successes, but I have seen most of people who are opting out of that particular path. And I think it's very important for us to bring in somebody who is going to guide us on how exactly a career in sales or how exactly a complete leadership in sales can be built, can be evolved over a period of time for a young talent who is moving into the industry. It's an absolute privilege for me to have Chitra Singh joining us today and sharing her experience, her story, and her endeavor to make it happen for everybody who is involved. Thank you so much, Chitra ji, for taking out time and joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me. Absolute pleasure to be here.
Chitraji, what has been your journey so far?
I've spent over 3 decades in the corporate world and then decided to step out of the corporate world and join the entrepreneurial path. Partly because I saw that there were very few women in sales. So every time I walked into a room, I was almost always the only lone woman in the room. And at leadership levels, I found no one. So even in relatively progressive industries like banking, I still found that I was the only sales leader who was a woman in the room. And that's when I realized that I need to do something to encourage more women to come into sales. I could make an impact while remaining in the corporate world through the women in my team. I could encourage and impact them to remain in a sales career. But my impact was limited to those few women or to a few more women in my own organization. And that's when I decided to launch Saleswomentoring, which is India's first women-only sales-focused community to impact more women. I wanted to work towards creating and multiplying impact whilst also demonstrating that it is possible to combat the gender biases which pervade our society and our workforce and still be successful. So I believe that when a lot of women come together, we amplify our voice. And that's when the collective impact transforms both society and the workplace. That was the idea behind launching Saleswomentoring. And like I mentioned to you earlier, it's India's first and only community which inspires women to succeed at selling. These are both very close to my heart, women being independent and sales. And I brought them both together to launch Saleswomentoring.
Amazing. However, coming from a stable career, by starting on your own, getting into entrepreneurship is a completely different ballgame. So how did it happen for you? How did you decide to launch it? Because the journey is, that particular decision particularly is never easy.
That's right. So when I've worked for over 3 decades and I realized that I was doing more of the same thing. And like I told you, I wanted to work towards creating and multiplying impact. Ultimately, when one works towards impact, one can make a difference to society and to the world at large. When you're working in an organization, your impact is limited to that organization. That's when I decided that I need to move out on my own. Initially, I thought of going down the normal path like most people, and I launched my own company to offer consultancy in the area of sales transformation. Again, that was sales. But then I realized that it was not really my passion. Though I love consulting, I still take on assignments, which are very few. I pick and choose because of lack of time and bandwidth. But my passion again lay in helping women to be more confident, to negotiate confidently for what they deserve at work and in life. Because I do feel that women are undervalued, underestimated, and underrepresented in the workforce. So I wanted to do something in that area. And so I brought both my passions together, sales and helping women to negotiate more confidently, both together when I launched Saleswomentoring.
What has been the experiences in journey? You started a few years back. Now the younger generation is moving in. There is a generation in between which came to a middle level and then deviated to different roles, business partner role, marketing role, but did not pursue much with the sales. But the younger generation seems to have a very different attitude towards life. What has been your experience of dealing at all these three levels?
Right. So I think I'm the oldest person in the team, which is not very surprising because now we find that we are at the other end of the spectrum, having gone through this whole journey. And all the people working with me, whether they are in social media or in the web development side, and my own daughter who interned with me and helped me with the Instagram, at which I was very bad, I must admit that. All of them are much younger to me. While I find a lot of pluses in them, a lot of strengths. For example, their familiarity and comfort with technology, their ease with so much of information which is around us, and we tend to get overwhelmed, but they are able to handle the digital media and the digital world with so much comfort and ease. And that's something I really admire. Second is they are able to put themselves out there, absolutely, and share their lives and their experiences with the world, whether it's having coffee and making a reel on Insta or sharing their stories. And I know that you and I, our generation, is not so comfortable sharing our lives on social media. It may not be the right thing to do to share everything, but being a little more open, a little more vulnerable, and more authentic is definitely required from our generation. We are a little closed, is what I feel. So this is what I've said about the positives of the younger generation. Having said that, I feel that they are really ambitious. So they want to achieve success fast. And somewhere they forget that there is a journey. They see all of us, we seem to be relatively well off, comfortably settled financially. And we also seem to be having the freedom to pursue our aspirations and dreams. For example, I don't work in a corporate. I'm pursuing my dream and my passion of running a community for women. So we seem to have that freedom, flexibility. We seem to be well off, and they see only the end result of the journey. And somewhere I think they do not see the hard work or the discipline or the commitment or the focus which has gone here. They are wanting everything, but a little too soon. And the second thing is that I feel that, so the first one was in terms of effort and time, where I feel that patience is not so much. And the second, I think, is in terms of the commitment, in terms of time and effort which they have to give, and the consistency. Sometimes they do work, but in phases, and then it slacks off. Again, they work, and then it slacks off. So there's consistency also required along with commitment to achieve your dreams. That consistency, sometimes I see wearing off, could be linked to their age and the fact that their patience is not so high. So they cannot be consistent over long periods of time, which is required sometimes in order to achieve success. The third, of course, is resilience mentally. I do feel that they need to be mentally more resilient, because that one success follows many, 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 many failures. If you look at everybody who's succeeded in history, some of the greatest sportsmen, they have probably failed hundreds of times. Michael Jordan, I think, had 27 winning shots which he was given during his career. He didn't strike gold in any of them. They lost the game because he couldn't take the winning shot. He lost 300 games in his career, but still, he is one of the greatest players in our history. Why? Because he didn't allow his failures to define him or defeat him or limit him. He learned from them and went forward. He had the mental resilience and the emotional strength. And that's the third thing which I want to say, that is in terms of commitment, in terms of conviction. But third thing is they need mental resilience in order to learn from their failures and step forward, and not let failures or rejections overwhelm them.
Amazing. Now, this particular part, the three aspects that you defined for the younger generation, these similar aspects did not exist for the generation which is at the middle level today. They came in probably far familiar to the generation wherein we started the career. In this particular part, however, a lot of them did not seem to pursue that career for a longer period. Somewhere, do you feel that the corporates did not rise up to the occasion? Did that happen, or the life choices were a little different then?
Yes, I do agree that it's a combination of both, that life choices were different. For example, in our generation, we had no choice, right? We came from limited financial backgrounds. A lot of us came from very, very middle class backgrounds. And we knew that education, effort, and our own hard work was the only way which could take us to a better place. This generation has a lot more. But the middle generation is the one which was sandwiched, the ones who are probably now in their 30s and having worked for 5, 6, 10 years. They had opportunity and education, and yet I do not think that corporates really understood their attitude and their thinking. Some of the new age startups and IT companies did invest in them. For example, they have even dating allowance, and they have so many things available in the office, including food and drink, which was unheard of in our times, and pick up and drop, and we think that they are being pampered. But other companies that more traditional, maybe in the manufacturing and other areas, have not taken to that so quickly. So some startups and IT companies have done that, and they have kind of pampered and nurtured their employees at the mid-rung. Some have not, but more work is required. Definitely, you are right there.
The one part that I have seen, particularly during the career as it happens in sales in particular. A lot of bonding, a lot of grooming happens when the teams travel together, or typically the team dinners and the evening the meet. The bosses are far more comfortable dealing with the boys who are moving around and the younger ones, and they tend to pick up the ropes much faster. That's what happens on the ground. It happens, but the moment when it comes to any particular girl walking into that particular team, there are reservations, and we have seen it. I've seen it happening during my career, and that particular individual finds it difficult to build a rapport, to get into that particular team and then grow over a period of time. So whenever an organization is looking at diversity, particularly in sales, it needs a different mindset. How can an organization do that?
Right. So the point which you made was absolutely valid, that you find yourself to be the lone woman there. And sales is associated with lots of myths and misconceptions that you need after office socializing, entertaining with clients, a lot of traveling, pressure, targets. You will not be able to handle both family and work life. And it's a boys' club, above all, what you were talking about. So, kind of socializing and drinking and smoking with the boys. I am not advocating or against any of these, but at the same time, some women may have reservations on the partying, drinking, and socializing. But let me make it very clear here that it is not only about that, right? It's also a lot of hard work and commitment, and of course, remaining disciplined and dedicated towards achieving your targets. And how can organizations and women themselves make more progress in this? I think when we were chatting informally before this conversation, I had mentioned that the role of a mentor here is very important, whether male or female. Of course, a female mentor acts as a role model and an inspiration, and she can share her journey and her stories, and that inspires the younger generation even more. But a male mentor can play an equal role. Like I had mentioned, my own boss, who was completely supportive at the phase when I had my child. And he even introduced me to his wife, who was a working woman, and made sure that she shared her story of how she brought up her two children and was still able to be a successful manager in SBI. She was heading her branch. And she was extremely successful. So he went to that extent of not only encouraging and mentoring me by sharing his personal experience, but also introducing me to his wife, taking me to their home so that I could actually see that this is possible to have managed both the work and home and the child. So sometimes it is one individual who can make a difference. And beyond that, I think that the commitment towards diversity and inclusion has to be in the core values and in the DNA of the organization. It cannot be just measured by metrics and numbers that, oh, our gender parity is so much, or our representation of women is 50% or 60%. Beyond metrics and measures, I think it needs to be part of the core values of the organization, and it needs to be embodied and lived and breathed by every single member of the senior management, with complete commitment from the senior management. And then, of course, comes the structure, systems, and the policies, and the support which should be in place. The 3 S's, I call them, the structure, support, and systems, which need to be in place to enable women to succeed in the workplace.
I asked you the question before because I wanted to bring out this particular topic of being that the boys' club, or the way we were talking about. This was a conventional way the world operated pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Because at that point in time, the relationship, beating out people, building up that particular bond was the way a lot of conventional salespeople evolved over a period of time, and that's how they build the bridges. Now, when we are looking at a world post-COVID, right, which is more of a digital world, wherein the value is more of a conversation that is happening digitally. At that point in time, the whole idea of building the relationship is about the value that you are going to deliver. In that particular case, would open a lot of opportunities for the younger generation, for the young females to get into this particular business and women to get into this business, because it's all going to be about the value that you are going to deliver to the client. And the relationship part is going to be more that value based compared to the rapport, so-called, the way that we used to define in the pre-COVID world. So would that mean that the organization need to look at the hiring their sales force in a different way, more digitally literate team, more value creating teams?
Absolutely. So the world is moving towards virtual selling, and 60% of the B2B buyers believe that virtual selling is the way to go. And both you and I know that the only way forward is the hybrid sales approach. So both virtual as well as physical, with Obviously a greater focus on virtual because of the obvious benefits of saving on time, cost, travel, etc., and so on. Like you and I have connected virtually, and now we are in this interview. We would not have thought it was possible earlier. So yes, the world is moving towards virtual selling, and yes, women have definitely got an opportunity here because it ensures that they need not travel so much and they need not compromise, so called, on their home priorities in order to be successful in their careers. And but one point I would like to make here is that a lot of the myths and misconceptions around selling are just myths. It's there are pressures and targets in all functions, but somehow that seems to be amplified in sales. The workforce itself is male dominated. In India, if you look at it, the representation of women in the workforce is hardly 20%. Right. I think in last year it went down to below 10% levels, but it seems to be hovering around 20% levels, which means 80% of the women are not even in the workforce, which means that there will be a lot more men in the office. So saying that a certain function is male dominated, it's a boys club, and so on, doesn't really hold good because all functions will be. And ultimately, we have to work with men and women being partners in progress. And like I mentioned earlier, the senior management is committed to and believes that there is good which comes out of diversity, out of having diverse perspectives and diverse people from diverse backgrounds bringing in their views. Until they believe that, we will not be able to make progress here. And we all know that the numbers speak for themselves. Women-led teams perform better in sales. They have a 3% higher quota achievement rate. They have a better diversity ratio. They are also more representative in terms of how they look. For example, our customers, they have 50% representation of women, and they are definitely influencers and buyers. So why should our sales teams not reflect the reality of our buyers' world? So having said all this, women bring their own skills, which were thought to be soft skills, but we know that they are no longer in the softer area now. For example, collaboration, for example, lesser competition, and for example, the nurturing ability, the ability to look for solutions, the ability to tell stories, because we've been telling stories to our kids and grown up hearing our grandmother's stories. Women are better socially because again we are social creatures, so we are able to connect, empathize, we are emotionally intuitive, we can sense the buyer's response. So a lot of good that women bring to the table. Once it is recognized and they themselves recognize it, they can excel at selling, and organizations will be able to definitely push forward this agenda too once they believe that there is a lot more good which comes out of having more women in the team, in the sales team.
Completely agree. I would like to understand, how do you propagate this through your community?
Right. So like I told you, it's India's first and only community inspiring women to sell with confidence. And when I'm talking about confidence, I'm talking about confidence in all aspects of life. You cannot say I'm a confident seller without being a confident human being. So ultimately, it comes from who you are. And who you are is how you sell. That's what I tell people. That reflects in your confidence, in your conviction, in your authenticity, in your sales interactions. So what we do through our community is we work on building holistic confidence, both at a personal level, at a leadership level, as well as at a selling level. You and I both know that success is 20% skill set and 80% mindset. Skill set we can teach. Sales skills we can always teach through workshops, boot camps, knowledge transfer, and so on. But it is the 80% part, the mindset, which we both need to work on together. It is not possible for one person to work on it alone. It may be, but the journey may be longer. So we try to cut short that journey through our mentors. We have more than 30 mentors who are all 2 to 3 decades of experience and expertise in sales and leadership coaching. So through these mentors, we accelerate the progress of these young women towards their success goals. So our community is based on 3 pillars. MEN. The name is Saleswomentoring. And I again am specifically using this word MEN because I believe that both men and women have to work together in order to progress towards a more equal world for our sons and daughters. And that is why specifically I bring about this fact that MEN, without men, the progress of one half or one gender will not be possible. And MEN are the 3 pillars, which is mentoring, experiential learning, and networking. And women need to understand that we need to invest in all 3, find a good mentor, sponsor who can accelerate your progress and tell you which skills to showcase in order to advance in your career. Learning, of course, is an integral part of progress. And the third is networking, because women don't invest enough in networking, like you said, after office, as well as building up their connections. And that's where we help them by bringing our network in, not only us, but the entire 500 plus members of the community who all learn and share and connect with each other, so that finally they help each other in terms of collaborations or partnerships or business leads also.
The experiential learning part, there is very tricky aspect that I've seen, particularly when I look at the co-founders and I see a lot of young women getting into starting the enterprise, building up some very technically capable individuals, building up some beautiful products. But when it comes to sales, right, that becomes a huge challenge. So, are you working with some young entrepreneurs and helping them look at how they should build their career, particularly create a network, build that mindset? Because that sales mindset is where they always carry that technical mindset, and they don't. A lot of them actually fail to build the sales approach.
Yeah, you are actually taking the words right out of my mouth, because this is what I keep telling. 30 to 40% of our members are solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, or coaches or consultants. And when you ask them, whenever I enter any meeting, the first question I ask is, how many people are sales people in this room? Believe me, hardly one person will raise their hand. And that one person would be having a formal designation of sales manager, account manager, business development. The rest are all entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and they view themselves as that. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a solopreneur, I'm a small business owner, I'm a consultant. But they do not see that ultimately, without a customer, there is no business. And without a business, they would not be founders. So I keep telling them that you have to remember that sales is the lifeblood of every business. And the salesperson is the heart. They keep the blood pumping throughout the organization. So if you lead from the front, your team can see that you need mean business, right? You need business also is there. You mean business and you need business. And they can see you're hungry for business, that you're going out there and you're selling from the front, you're leading from the front, walking your talk actually. And that's when they will get more confidence and conviction in the product. Also, it's very difficult when you go out there. It's easy to say to the sales team, maybe you all are not effective in selling, you're not able to get the message across. But who better than you as the founder to get your brand message across and be your best ambassador for your product and be the best cheerleader? And once you do it 3, 4, 5 times and you demonstrate your confidence, your conviction will automatically be carried forward towards the team, and they will be able to relay the message that much more confidently. So selling is, I think it's actually a myth that only a sales professional needs to sell. You even need to sell, for example, to your own children healthy food and why they should be eating healthy food. Eat carrots, otherwise your eyesight will suffer. So you need to actually sell the benefits of having carrots. And women are natural storytellers and sellers, because even in their homes, they have to convince a lot of stakeholders. You manage multiple stakeholders even at home, within your family and all the ecosystem, your domestic help, and so on, which we were talking about. When you are able to sell to them, why not within your business? Or why not within your organization? You are naturally gifted for that.
Great. So this idea of the young entrepreneurs moving into sales, and then subsequently building the sales team and taking them to the next level, the natural progression of it happens, compared to somebody directly bringing some kind of money, making the investments, and then looking at the inorganic growth or the acquisition growth, or somewhere spending more compared to what you are earning today, is what is the trend. So when you see the entrepreneurs today, a lot of them appears to be split between these two. A lot of them believe in organic growth. A lot of them believe that the funding is the one that they need, and the sales more happens towards the investors compared to the actual client. Right. But they need to do both. So do entrepreneurs reach out to you for preparing the sales pitch for both?
Absolutely. We do. We work on the investor pitch. We work on the sales pitch. And ultimately, I tell them, don't think of it as a pitch, because the minute you think of it as a pitch, it makes you nervous. And then you think, oh my God, I have only 1 minute, like the elevator pitch, and it makes you nervous. Just think of it as sharing the story of the why of your brand or the why of your company. This is your sharing your story. And if you believe in it, you can transfer that belief to your investor or to your buyer or customer. Ultimately, sales is about transfer of confidence, right? So that the belief in your product is more than their belief in their doubts, and that and their belief in your product is stronger than their doubts. That's what it is about: transfer of energy and transfer of confidence to your buyer, investor, whoever. So finally, I tell them that think of it as your story, and think of it as, why should that person invest or believe in my story? If you have 3 points, that's good enough. Just talk about that, and that's it. But definitely, we need to do a lot of work, which is why we have started on pitch practice sessions, which we call them pitch and practice in a safe environment, which is within our community. And each time we call in different experts. Some of them are actually angels and investors. And we help them prepare their pitch so that when they go to the final investor, they are absolutely perfect, because practice makes perfect and gives you that confidence too. So practice in a safe environment within the community and then go out and pitch. We recently started that, and we're going to be doing this on a fortnightly basis to prepare entrepreneurs and solopreneurs for their final pitches.
Amazing. One question. What would be the advice to Chitra ji starting her career again now?
Yeah, you're talking about my younger self.
Your younger self.
My younger self. Well, don't take failure or rejection personally. I think I beat myself up a lot when I was younger. I took failure and rejection very personally. And I should have taken it as a learning opportunity, as a stepping stone to success. Second thing is, don't be in a hurry, because there is success waiting for all of us. Some get it earlier, some get it later. It's like I tell them, you take a train or a plane to your destination. Ultimately, you reach the destination. The train reaches slower, but enjoy the scenery, enjoy the journey, and you will reach the same destination. So Charu Dutt may reach the destination maybe in 10 years. Chitra Singh may take 20 years. That doesn't make you a lesser human being. So don't beat yourself up for your failures. Learn from them and realize and understand that there is a certain time which it will take for you to reach your success goal. Some reach it earlier, some reach it later. That doesn't mean that you're a lesser person. And the last thing is that I would tell myself, don't let others define what success means. Your own definition of success is what matters. And if you have the belief and the conviction that you have what it takes to succeed, and you know what success means to you, define it on your own terms, live it on your own terms, and reach it in your own time. That should be your philosophy for life. And that has been now my philosophy, because I launched my company after 50, like I told you. And then I started learning singing. I learned driving. I didn't drive earlier, always afraid of traffic. I learned driving after 50. I launched this community after 50. And now I think it's the most exciting and rewarding phase of my life, because I'm working towards impact, not money. So I would also tell myself to relax a bit more on the way, because I think we spend too much of time, chasing money to really enjoy life and strike that balance in our earlier years. So I would say that chase impact, money will follow. If money becomes your end goal, you become mediocre. But if impact is your end goal, you become memorable, impactful, and successful. Money will follow. Don't make that as the end goal. It's a byproduct of serving others and of helping others and making a difference to other people's lives.
Amazing. Thank you so much for these great insights. Chitraji, thank you so much for your time. And I'm sure that a lot of young entrepreneurs would get inspired and they would look at building their career in sales. Thank you so much.
Really a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for inviting me once again.